Work Sharp presents the Northwest Outdoorsmen.
Almost had a pretty good chance there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Holy smokes, that fish is big.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, beautiful bull.
Nice fish.
That's a nice cokie.
It's cool.
I know it's not a small one, let's put it that way.
Color's great.
Boy, he has good lines, that dog.
Yeah, that's a nice bull. Nice one.
That was an awesome bite.
This could be the one.
It's pretty good.
Well, let's just get in that little draw right there, this first one, and go down, see what we see there.
This week on the Northwest Outdoorsmen,
Is that crack at it? He didn't go over the top though, did he?
Mike Harrod is hunting coyotes in eastern Washington, and the dogs are giving him fits. Work Sharp presents the Northwest Outdoorsman, brought to you by Max Lure, Hooked on Toys, Pacific Calls, Town Ford, Bob File Boats and Motors. Coyotes are abundant in Washington state, with numbers estimated at approximately 50,000. In pioneer days, coyotes were found in sagebrush lands and open prairies, but now occupy almost every conceivable habitat, from open ranch country to densely forested areas to downtown waterfront. They can often be a nuisance to ranchers and their livestock, and they can kill a large number of fawns. Hunting coyotes is popular, but these animals are extremely wary, providing a challenge to hunters. Mike Harrod has been hunting coyotes since he was a teenager, but this year has proved to be one of the toughest. Coyote hunting can sometimes turn into only enjoying the beautiful and diverse landscape of eastern Washington.
We like to hunt when there's especially fresh snow. You know, a coyote will travel about a mile a day. And so if you have fresh snow on the ground and you intercept some tracks, more than likely that coyote hasn't gone very far from where you've picked up the tracks. I always try and get out when the snow's fresh. I've got a rancher down here that raises some cows, and he lets me hunt his coyotes. And one of the best parts of his ranch to hunt is there's just a road that you walk in, and it brings you into a small draw that is surrounded by basalt cliffs, maybe go up about 15 feet. And my first stop is this area where I go up on the basalt, and you look down into the area, and the basalt's pretty fractured, so there's little pockets you could sit in, so your silhouette is broken up off of the top. That come up empty. I've killed a couple coyotes there in the last 3 or 4 years. On that day, we didn't see anything come in there. So up about probably less than a half a mile away, it comes to the end of a big open field. And this whole ranch is just pockets with small ponds. And you may look out in the field and not see anything, but just over a little slope, there could be something down there. So we sat down in there and tried to call there also. We started seeing magpies show up, which is a really good sign, but again, we didn't see any coyotes. And so we walked over, again, fresh snow, didn't see any tracks. We sat up on that rim again to look over that draw, and we called and sat there for probably 20 minutes or so. Didn't see any coyotes. It's hard to explain to somebody who don't like being out on a day like that, but There's something about being where wild things are. That's the fun part about all kinds of hunting, but it's a fun thing about coyote hunting is you get out and you get a walk and you get a look and you get some excitement. The thing is you're out in their area and you're just trying to fit in someplace out there and it's enjoyable. We'd already put in a lot of hours trying to get a coyote. We weren't having any luck and felt kind of like we were jinxed, so we decided we'd go, maybe go towards the center of the state. We went up towards Banks Lake. I'd been up there a couple times. I knew it was a good area to hunt. Rich knew somebody who had luck with coyotes up there. We called there quite a bit. I think we're using an electronic caller again. Again, it was snowy, a little bit cold, not too bad of a day though. You know, when you're out in an area like that, you want to get up a little ways where you can see. We were looking up towards the north, and it was a good area that we could glass.
Coming up after the break, Work Sharp presents the Northwest Outdoorsmen, brought to you by Max Lure, Hooked on Toys, Pacific Calls, Town Ford, Bob File Boats and Motors. Welcome back to the sagebrush country of eastern Washington.
So we decided we'd go, maybe go towards the center of the state. We went up towards Banks Lake. I'd been up there a couple times. I knew it was a good area to hunt. We called there quite a bit. I think we're using an electronic caller again. We were looking up towards the north. It was a good area that we could glass with our binoculars, which is one thing you do a lot with coyotes. The further out you can see them, the more prepared you can be. The worst thing that can happen is to have your gun pointing this way and have a coyote looking at you right there, because then you're just stuck. So if you see him coming and you get an idea at which direction they're going to be, where you can move before they're close enough to see you wiggle. So we spent a lot of time looking through binoculars trying to pick up movement. Didn't see any coyotes. We gave her our 20 minutes, then we drove up the road a ways, and we saw a nice field, and the thing that was appealing about this field is the snow was pretty hard and compact on top, and so you know those coyotes would be out really looking for food. So I thought if we could hike in and get to where we could call it that pocket of shrub and trees, we might pull one out there. Again, we called, we used our binoculars, didn't see any coyotes. That's what I had in my head, is just one just pop up, you know, just whoop. So we walked our way out of there and drove down the road, and we saw an old ranch sign, and there were a couple old ranch houses, and a gentleman met us out front. We told him we were looking to shoot coyotes, but he gave us permission to hunt his property and told us where he had seen some earlier. So we set up and we called, and we were looking down lower. We called for 15, 20 minutes. We were calling in multiple directions at one time and trying to see in multiple directions. Ooh, baby. We looked up on the ridge. Way far away, we could see a coyote coming down that ridge. There's a coyote. We were kind of debating whether it had a hurt foot or not, because it wasn't making it through the snow very well. You know, we don't know if the snow was soft, it was just a lot of work for it. I don't even know if he could really hear us calling it. Some deer came across, like most coyotes do. He just changed his mind. If he was coming to us at all, he may have just been out walking, but he took and just kind of wandered away. We went down across, we had to cross the fence, and we went up and we went around and tried to get below. And so we went down and tried to intercept him, but at that point we could see that he was heading the other direction.
Their patrolling and hunting behavior is pretty interesting. They often travel in pairs, but they separate as they go. I would say most often they travel in pairs, but sometimes one will come out, especially if they're trying to investigate. They hear something or see something that's unusual. One of the things that does regulate their population is the fact that they're very territorial, and they frequently survey the edges of their territory, and they frequently mark the edge of their territories, and that sort of helps establish those home ranges and keeps the numbers somewhat limited because they regulate themselves.
Just about anywhere you're at, there's coyote. I live up here in the steppe, Ponderosa Pine, and there's coyotes here. I grew up out in the Columbia Basin in the desert. There's coyotes there. You go out to ag areas, there's coyotes there. So just about any place you're going, if you look at a map, you can find a spot that you can hunt coyotes.
It's hard to hunt coyotes hard enough to really lower their population. They're so adaptive and such a generalist. They're productive. That makes their population very resilient.
So then we got in the pickup and we went the direction of the river. We found a road, but as we drove back in there, it slowly started to go over the crown of a hill, and we looked down, there's an old homestead. If you're gonna pay somebody, this is what you'd pay them for right here. It was a beautiful place to set up to call coyotes because we were up top and we were down looking at a draw. Again, we glassed. We were begging them to come in by then. And still didn't see one. And we didn't really know how far in we were, so we decided we would just keep going out. So we put the truck in go and we went as hard as we could. It was fun.
Coming up after the break,
Is that a crack at it? Oh, that gets me excited now.
Worksharp presents the Northwest Outdoorsmen, brought to you by Max Lure, Hooked on Toys, Pacific Calls, Town Ford, Bob File Boats and Motors. Welcome back to the sagebrush country of eastern Washington.
We were begging them to come in by then, and still didn't see one. And we didn't really know how far in we were, so we decided we would just keep going out. So we put the truck in go and we went as hard as we could. It was fun. We saw a lot of good country, and I would say if you'd go back there probably 7 out of 10 times, you'd pick up something on one of those stands. But that may just be the coyote hunter talking. It's good. Now we decided that we're going to go to another place I grew up hunting, which is just north of Moses Lake. We'd come to a nice area and it looked like it was open and it wasn't privately owned. We would get out and call. The road's pretty much just a straight road that does a little bit of winding. There's draws, there's tops, it's sagebrush, basalt. There's a few ponds back in there. We probably called 4 or 5 pretty nice stands. At least they looked nice in there, and there wasn't a lot of traffic, so again, you'd think there would be a coyote in there. At this point, we probably had almost 30 hours into trying to coyote hunt, so I went back and I had a pocket full of calls. I was going back to stuff that I owned years and years ago.
They use vocalizations to communicate with each other, yelping or howling with each other when they're in different places in their territory. They use them to sort of rally themselves for the hunt. And a lot of times when they're on a kill or a food source, you'll hear vocalizations during that time.
This is a closed reed call. It's the easiest type to blow. You blow them about the same every time, and it's a wounded rabbit. This is a Cottontail Rabbit. This is another type of closed reed call right here. This one actually you can take the end off and make it an open reed call, and this is an open reed call.
Coyotes are what we call a carnivore. They're a meat eater, but they eat a wide variety of things, from bugs and insects to small mammals. That's probably what they feed on mostly, or things like mice and voles. Fall and winter roll around and it gets much harder. Winter's a tough time. You know, the food is often covered in a layer of snow. They have to dig down through it. They become real scavengers. If they sense something they can eat, they're going to be on it.
On the 5th or 6th stand of the day, we walked in. Rich was set up behind me and off to my right, and I'm calling and I'm looking down this draw where I thought the coyote would probably come from. And he got my attention, and there was one coming kind of from the back left, and this coyote kind of glowed as it walked through. He probably already had us marked. That's the one thing about when you're calling. If they see you before you see them, they've got time to figure out where you're at. But we still thought we might have a shot at him. Shot a crack at him? Anytime you're in sagebrush that's tall, if you don't have open lanes to shoot, it's hard to get your gun high enough to shoot over the sage. Let's carry on. That was our excitement. So one coyote. At least we're seeing them now. It's all right, we got a couple more to go. There's a nice piece of state land south of O'Sullivan Dam there, kind of in between Othello and Moses Lake and Royal City, that pocket in there. There's a gravel road that just travels back. It takes you to some fishing lakes and some hiking areas that took us to overlook some ponds and some draws back in there. We just kind of slowly hiked our way in, stopped and called and glassed, and again, we didn't find any coyotes in there. We walked back to the truck and we decided we'd go try another spot, and as we were coming back, we saw 2 coyotes.
Coming up after the break,
Down.
Worksharp presents the Northwest Outdoorsman, brought to you by Max Lure, Hooked on Toys, Pacific Calls, Town Ford, Bob File Boats and Motors. Welcome back to coyote hunting in eastern Washington.
We walked back to the truck and we decided we'd go try another spot, and as we were coming back, we saw 2 coyotes running right around the corner of this hill, and they run right by us to the left. So we jumped out of the car and grabbed a rifle and tried to get a shot on one. We took a couple running shots at them, but it wasn't really a hunting setup. It was fun. Yeah, yeah, all of them are fun. Oh, that gets me excited now. Let's go do it again. You didn't look like you were gonna stop. When you start out and you're young, you just hunt them because you're a hunter. That's what you do. But as you get older, you realize that you're really hunting them because they are a puzzle. They're smarter than you, they see better than you do, they hear better than you do, and they obviously have a better sense of smell than you do, and you're walking into their house trying to get them to come to you. And then they have this whole pack social dynamic where if they're not the most dominant dog in their pack, they have to be aware of what's going on around them also.
The reason they're so resilient to hunting is that biology of theirs, where they have established territories, they have floaters on the outside, they can produce on an annual basis a lot of, quite a few pups, especially for a carnivore. And so those factors make them real resilient to hunting.
Well, now we've turned this into a full-time job, trying to get us a coyote. We probably had about 35 to 40 hours in this So we made another attempt at it because Rich came back up, and I'd got permission from a friend of mine to hunt a small piece of farmland. He has a couple hundred acres. I had went and bought a motion decoy because I knew we were trying to hide two people equipment, which was making it a little harder because I was thinking about Rich on the camera and he was always trying to be in the right position. So I thought if we could put something out in front of us that would possibly divert the coyote's attention, we'd kind of relax. There was a center row of trees and shrubs and tall grass. It looked like it'd be a lot better spot. I put out the motion decoy, called. We looked out in front, and coming right down from the shrubs on just this side of the shrubs were two coyotes. They were traveling together. Now I'm starting to worry about which coyote Rich has on his camera. So I'm trying to talk to him. He can hear me, but I can't really hear him. By the time we kind of fully communicated, what we had was two coyotes running that way. At the end of that, we had a conversation about what my job was and what his job was. He told me just to not worry about him and just shoot it if it comes in, so we got that clear. I decided that we should go back over to the Strifes farm. At this time, it was getting later in the day. There was an hour and a half, 2 hours of daylight left. It was a real simple setup. We were up on a high basalt bluff, and we were looking down into the fields. And I heard Rich again give me the psst. Oh, he could see the coyote, but for me, it was backed up by all the grass. It was the same color as the coyote, so I couldn't see it. Finally, he turned his head and I saw him. Down. After 40 hours or so of hard work, it was kind of like somebody just lifted a weight off your back. I know he's there. Rich has got an eye on him. That was a beautiful coyote. It was a big male. It was a big dog. When you get one coming in and you lean forward and you look through your scope and you see what's in their eye, it makes your heart pound a little bit, makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's pretty exciting.
Now it's time for another Harrod's Cookhouse recipe brought to you by Micklich's, Spokane's spice and gluten-free bakery since 1948. Today we're making goose breakfast sausage. Goose meat is a rich and lean meat, and when mixed with pork makes fantastic sausage. To make 10 pounds of sausage, start by cutting up 5 pounds of goose meat into 1-inch cubes.
Goose breast.
Along with 5 pounds of pork, also cut into 1-inch cubes.
Pork shoulder.
Combine meat in a bowl along with breakfast sausage seasoning.
Let's mix it in water.
A small amount of water and seasoning will make it combine well. Then simply grind the mixture. The sausage is ready to cook and enjoy.
It's smelling good.
For this and other great recipes, visit the Harrod Outdoors website. Tune in next week for another great wild game recipe.
We decided we'd sit back to back so he could watch that way and I could watch that way. And I started calling, and it was a little bit crunchy snow, and we heard a dog running through the snow, and we were both paying attention. The next thing you know, I heard the dog get close, and I turned and looked, and it was jumping over a piece of sagebrush, and it lit right in my dad's lap. And he screamed, and the dog did a backflip to leave, and as I turned my head, my mask